Well, hey everybody, Mr. Reeves back with you again, and today we're looking at percents, fractions, and decimals. So our goal is to be able to represent a number, a ratio, as any three of those versions, as any one of those three versions, a percent, a fraction, or a decimal, and to convert between them. So if I give you a percent, you can give me it as a fraction and a decimal. If I give you a decimal, you can give me a fraction, percent, etc., etc. All right. So before we actually get into solving some problems, I want to do a quick review with you and try to make sure you really understand how these three relate to each other. So if you remember from our previous lesson, we looked at this diagram right here, which your textbook calls benchmarks. And this one right here in the previous lesson had some benchmark fractions, and it showed what they were as percents. And we said it's a really good idea for you to memorize these. These are ones you really should have memorized. And remember, I added one more in here, 1/5. I don't know if you remember me adding this, but 1/5 was 20%. So these really are ones that you should know. All right, you should have memorized. You should know that 1/10 as a fraction is 10%. 1/10 as a fraction is 1/10. 1/10 as a percent is 10%. 1/5 is 20%. 1/4 is 25%. 1/3 is 33 and 1/3%. 50% is a half, and so on. Again, those are ones you should commit to memory. All right. Now, what this diagram does not have in it is it does not have decimals. All right. It has fractions and percents. It doesn't have decimals. All right. So I went and I found another diagram that has a little bit more on it, and it includes fractions, it includes decimals, it includes percents. All right, it's got a couple issues that we need to take care of here. All right, for example, it also doesn't have 1/5 on there. All right, I guess 1/5 is not considered one of the official benchmarks, but I'm telling you now, 1/5 is one that is going to come up a lot that you really need to know. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and include 1/5 right here. 1/5 happens to be the same as 2/10. They are equivalent. 1/5 is 20%. So again, these are the benchmarks that you should have memorized. You should know that 1/5 is 20%. Whoops, 1/5 is 20%. You should know that 1/4 is 25%. You should know that 1/3, and here's another issue I have with this little one here. All right, it says 33%, but as we talked about again in our previous video, it's not exactly 33%, is it? It's actually 33 and 1/3%. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. And as a decimal, it actually repeats. It's actually 0.3 repeating. Okay, I'm going to be making a PDF version of this diagram, and I'm going to be posting it on Google Classroom for you so you could have it as a reference. Okay, so again, 1/5 was 20%, 1/4 25%, 1/3 33 and 1/3%. All right, 1/2 50%. All right, and then 2/3 is simply two of those 1/3, but it comes up a lot, so we should memorize it. Again, I'm going to make a slight change here. It's not exactly 66%, is it? All right, so if 1/3 is 33 and 1/3%, then 2/3, remember it's simply two of those, is going to be 66 and 2/3%. All right. So again, these are ones you should have memorized. 2/3 is 66 and 2/3%. I should also fix the decimal. All right, it's actually 0.6 repeating right there. Okay. And then finally, no fixing necessary on this one. 3/4 is 75%. And of course, you really should know that one whole is 100%. And if you have nothing, you have 0%. So those ones in green, I cannot tell you how helpful it will be. I cannot emphasize enough how helpful it will be if those are memorized. If we were in class, I would be giving you quizzes where I'd say clear everything off your desk except for pencil, and I'd give you a blank piece of paper. Well, I'd give you a piece of paper and you'd have to fill these in, okay? Those are ones that you should memorize, okay? Fractions on the top. In the middle, we have decimals, and then on the bottom, we have percents. All right, they did throw a few decimals here. So let's do one more thing before I end this video, and then in our next video, we will we'll actually do some problems, okay? I just want to emphasize again, all of these are ratios. These are ways to express rational numbers, okay? These are ways to express rational numbers. We're going to have a fraction. Okay, we're going to have a decimal. And we're going to have a percent. And they're all going to be ratios. And our numerator, remember, by the way, let me go back. A rational number is a over b, right? Where a and b are integers. You remember I drilled this into your head over and over and over again, right? And b is not equal to 0. Remember that? So a rational number was a over b. Let me see if I can make that a. Whoops. Come on, eraser. If I can make that a little bit more clearly. A over b, where a and b are rational numbers, and b is not equal to 0. Okay, so when you write a fraction, again, the numerator on all of these is going to be a. What separates them is what our denominator is. Okay, let's work our way back up. So percent, I've asked you over and over again, and I'm sure you know the answer. The denominator is always what for a percent? The denominator is always 100, right? So our denominator here is going to be 100. Okay, this is always. Okay, for here, for a decimal, it's going to be a power of 10. So it could be 1, it could be 10, it could be 100, it could be 1,000, okay, etc. Okay. So a decimal is simply a ratio where the denominator is a power of 10. And a fraction, that denominator, is the number of parts needed to make a whole number. Okay, the number of parts needed to make a whole number. So 1/10 means I need 10 parts to make a whole. 1/5 means I need 5 parts to make a whole. 1/3 means I need 3 parts to make a whole. And the bigger that number on the bottom, the bigger the value of the fraction. Backwards. All right. The bigger the number on the bottom, the smaller the value of that fraction. Because if it takes 10 parts to make a whole, those parts are going to be small, right? And by the way, with decimals, I just want to review the way we write decimals, okay? Because we write decimals, we have, right, I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 here. So that would be tenths with 1 place, right? And if we go here, 2 places would be hundredths, right? We're going to be using that a lot because that's what percent is. 3 places would be thousandths, etc. All right, and this one right here, that's the ones place, right? And then if we did it over here, that would be the tens place, and so on. Okay, so decimals are over powers of 10, but we write them with a decimal. Percent is over a denominator of 100, but we use the percent symbol. And fractions we write as fractions. Remember, fractions can be simplified by dividing out common factors. All right, so that is just a reminder. This hopefully is something that you're going, oh, yeah, I knew that, about how fractions, decimals, and percents are related. They're all different ways of writing rational numbers. It's just all about what that denominator is. All right, and now in our next video, we're going to look at comparing them and writing them in their equivalent forms. All right, till next time. Bye.